To Oubai Shahbandar, who is the TRT World Defense Analyst. Interesting what Ahmed was saying, that we hear that Russian troops are pulling out. Let's try and clarify that first of all. We knew there were several hundred Russian soldiers in that area. Have you had any confirmation that they have actually pulled out?
Now, prior to the launch of the Operation Olive Branch, there was a notable presence of a couple of hundred Russian military police in the southern part of Afrin province. We know that the Russian Ministry of Defense has released a statement saying that the Russian military is going to take all measures necessary to ensure the safety of the Russian forces in Afrin province. Some initial unconfirmed reports quoting Russian state media that these Russian forces have been pulled out of Afrin city. There's still some ambiguous information. It's not clear yet on whether or not these Russian military police are still in the southern tip of Afrin province. Now, we know that that area, the southern part of Afrin province, Arab villages, Arab towns. The YPG had taken dozens of villages from the Free Syrian Army that was fighting Daesh and the Syrian regime forces. So this area is considered a contested area by the YPG. So right now we just have to wait and see some further clarification from the Russian Ministry of Defense if they've withdrawn completely from the province.
If they do that, of course. And it is a very, very complicated battleground, and it has been for 6 years. So in terms of the Free Syrian Army, we're told that some of those fighters have gone into the Afrin region. So how much can we actually confirm on that?
So here's what we know. We do know that the Free Syrian Army is going to be the tip of the spear for this operation, leading the assault to liberate these Arab towns and villages that were occupied by the YPG as part of Operation Olive Branch. We do know that Free Syrian Army units such as the Liwa Mu'tasim brigades that were operating in Azaz fighting Daesh as part of the Euphrates Shield operations are involved in moving into Afrin to liberate these Arab towns and villages. We've heard many reports on the ground that there's a significant amount of local community, not only concern of the YPG presence there, but a significant amount of animosity amongst these local communities of the YPG presence here. So it's important to note that this isn't just an operation against Afrin and the residents of this province, but specifically against the YPG terror group itself.
What we don't know yet are the numbers of course, refugees from other parts of Syria, which are also in that region.
Of course.
But what I was going to ask you, let's go on to Turkey. We've seen over the last few days a build-up of the heavy weapons being moved down to the border there, the Turkish-Syrian border. What kind of role can we see from the Turkish Armed Forces?
Well, this is going to be a combined arms operation, both of the Air Force providing the shaping operation to target observation points and defense bunkers of the YPG that are fortified in the mountains around Afrin. So that's absolutely crucial. We're going to see Turkish special forces that are working hand in hand with the local Free Syrian Army. So it's important to note that Turkey is operating in conjunction with the locals that are from these areas and towns and villages, and that's a really crucial point. And
we've seen that before, of course, when with the Operation Euphrates Shield and around Al-Bab, there was a tough fight against Daesh. Now, in terms of the terrain is very different to what the Turkish Armed Forces have seen previously in northern Syria. How difficult could it be in that hilly northern part?
Well, this is much different than the terrain of the Euphrates operation area, where it was much more conducive for armored vehicles and tanks and armored personnel carriers. The part of Afrin here is that we have to take note is that has a heavy urban area in the city itself. Thousands of Syrians from other parts of Syria have moved there, so the population of the province itself has actually been inflated. So this is going to have to be a very deliberate and steady process, working with the local community, getting that local community support to against the YPG is going to be a significant force multiplier as this operation moves forward.
It's going to be significant as well in terms of how smart are the targeting, of course. Now, we know that the Turkish Air Force has also been in action. Do we know how many sorties they've taken so far?
We do know that the Turkish Air Force has been in action. We've seen some initial reports from the Anadolu Agency of the YPG defensive positions up in flames. We do know that at least a dozen Turkish aircraft are launching these sorties against these YPG defensive positions. And what's interesting here is that we've also seen an initial disinformation campaign by the YPG claiming that civilians are being targeted, but we can confirm that these airstrikes are very much targeted against YPG defensive positions in the mountains, not against civilian areas.
There's a lot to talk about and a lot to ask as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much indeed, Oubai Shahbandar.